Hey, happy Friday, and welcome back, Bears fans, to the CHGO Bears Podcast, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook. Download the app and use promo code CHGO when you sign up. And what's up, everyone? Will DeWitt, Nicholas Moreano here. It is finally Friday, the CHGO Audible Day. I wish we could throw that thumbnail back in the screen because that was so awesome to kind of like, thank you for that. It's a great thumbnail. We have Ryan Poles, we have Ursay there, and I think they're making a deal.
Oh, they're making a deal, yeah. And credit to our awesome producer Lawrence for just making these fire thumbnails. That's in the top. It's in the top 5 for me right now. But how's it going, Lawrence?
Repping my Super Bowl 30 throwback crew neck.
Wow!
Today.
Oh, thank God, that shirt that had length to it. When I saw you lifting, I got a little nervous.
Oh, come on now, settle down.
Okay, it is Friday though.
I guess it's
not doing it.
Flipping on Friday. Okay.
All right. So what's going on, Nick? How's your week been?
Good. I see on this Friday we both changed up our appearances a little bit. You got the fresh haircut. I decided to shave the face, and we're ready for the combine next week. But I guess we just had to change up a little bit before we actually got there on Monday.
Yeah, there's no way I could have showed up to the combine with my shaggy-ish hair. It was like down to like the bottom of my neck. It wasn't tapered. So I just went in and asked my barber, like, what should we do? He's like, I like the tried and true. And I was like, okay, I'm not creative enough. I don't know what else I can do with this hair anyway. So we went back with the classic Will look here.
It looks good. It looks really good. I anytime anyone gets a fade and gets all touched up, I notice it. So you're ready. You're ready for Indy. You're ready to interview all these prospects, and we're gonna kill it out there. So cannot wait.
Rip to the hat that's been like accompanying me on this show and everywhere I've gone for the past 3 months this winter. But regardless, if you're listening, I guess this means nothing to you. If you know what we look like, I guess you could use your imagination. But Nick, we have a lot that we are going to be discussing here in today's episode. I know there's some comments from Ryan Clark that we're going to kind of kick things off with. And then we're going to discuss some alternate defensive tackle free agents just due to Daron Payne's what feels like an imminent franchise tag for him. And then we're going to go into the next segment, which will be a 2-round pre-combine mock draft for the Bears, which we're excited for. I woke up thinking, let's do a full mock draft. It wasn't the case, but regardless, I think we're going to have a lot of fun with the 2 rounds. And then at the end, if you have any Bears questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. Lawrence will star them up, and we'll do a little Q&A at the end. So if you have like any pre-combine questions or just Bears questions in general for agencies coming up, we would love to answer those. Nick, you ready to rock and roll?
Let's do it.
All right, let's go ahead and just start with those comments that you threw into our Slack channel a couple of hours ago about from Ryan Clark, just regarding the Bears quarterback situation. And to me, it's like, I love to see it. I wish we don't have to keep talking about it, but I know it's just going to be the case of the offseason. But Ryan Clark on Get Up mentioned that the Bears are Super Bowl contenders with Justin Fields, not Bryce Young, pretty much saying there's no reason to trade Justin. Now's the time to build around him. Pretty much everything I was trying to tell Carm on Monday.
Yeah, basically when I was listening to that, I'm like, where have we had this discussion already? But, I just think that for Ryan Clark specifically, and I go back, Will, to it was the game against Washington where the Bears had went into Washington and beat then it wasn't the Commanders, but Mitch Trubisky went in there. They got the win. I believe it was a Monday night game. And Ryan Clark after that game was like, Mitch isn't the guy. There's a lot of backlash for him. And just hearing that, he wasn't really afraid to, again, say that after a Bears win. And then I always thought about that when, Trubisky didn't end up being that guy. And so when I hear him say these comments here, it seems like everybody's leaning towards the Bryce Young, go to him. Obviously, us here at CHGO, we know Justin Fields is the guy, but I think just how he said Justin Fields can be that franchise guy. He's already showed you enough without the pieces, without wide receivers, without an offensive line. I think you can hear what he's saying and see exactly why he's making these statements. And it's one that you and I think we come to that same conclusion as well. Like, why are you going to go draft a guy that's, a lot smaller, is not proven in the NFL? Neither is Justin, but he's shown you flashes. So for me, I completely agree with Ryan Clark. And if you get a chance, go check out his clip on Get Up. I think it's really well said. And, I always go back to what he said about Mitch Trubisky after everyone was saying he was, good after that Washington game on Monday night, but didn't turn out to be the case.
So you mentioned like Fields has things to prove. I do think he has proven some, though, that gives me hope that to build around him. And I don't know if it's like a conclusion, at least for me. I just never even considered the alternate, like seriously. There's just, to me, no reason to go through that exercise. Carm's doing enough for that for, I think, the both of us here to do that, like going through the Bryce Young highlights and talking himself up. But for me, it's Justin. And it's always, I have the tunnel vision on Justin. I have the tunnel vision of building around him this offseason. But to hear other people kind of come around, like you said, where a lot of that national narrative momentum's going the other way, it's good to get someone on the opposite end of the fence here, which I believe is the right place to be, sharing those thoughts. And I love Super Bowl contenders being part of the whole equation here too. Obviously a lot of work to be done, but that also kind of gives me a little, I don't know, juice here to kind of start off my Friday when I saw that.
Yeah, and real quickly, I've seen Leonidas in our chat before, and he's not just doesn't seem like a Justin Fields guy or believes in him as a passer. I've seen that consistently, and that's fine. You can have your own opinion, but I just know, like, remember when he got injured in the Atlanta game, and he had to miss that next week. His first game back was against the Green Bay Packers, and I know there was speculation whether or not he should even play in that game, right? And that ended up being one of his better passing games, and we all know how that ended with Jair Alexander, Equinemi St. Brown, the route. But, like, that should show you, even, again, there are games where he can pass the ball. It's not just him all having to run everything.
Right.
But yet I mean, he's very fixated on just him being a one-read quarterback, which really isn't true. There are multiple plays within the season where he's going through his progressions, find the right guy, or someone's not there and he has to take off. That happens for a lot of quarterbacks, and he has that luxury to do that not many guys can do. So I get it, you can have your own opinion, but I just don't quite agree with, him not being able to pass efficiently. He'll get there when he gets the weapons, and another year in Luke Getsy's offense.
Weapons, familiarity within the scheme adapting more towards him. I don't know, offensive line protection. There's just so many things that need to be in place for him to take another step. And I thought, considering the circumstances, and I've mentioned this a lot, so I'm not going to go deep into details, but just the briefest way I can say it is, considering all of the circumstances, I thought Justin made appropriate progress to give you confidence to build around him. I think that's the most concise way I can kind of rehash months, it feels like, of having similar conversations. I don't know how Edward figured it out, but he found out that even though we're hundreds of miles apart right now, we are sharing AirPods. Opposite ears.
I didn't even know.
But yours are the pros, right?
Yeah, mine are the pros. And I only do the one because they have like the noise canceling, and I don't know how loud I'm talking sometimes. So that's why I definitely choose just the one AirPod, but looks like we're sharing them.
I've always just done the one ear on podcasts ever since we've been doing this thing. It's just how I roll. I don't like having both. I like having, like you, like with the noise cancellation, I just like to have an ear to, like, I guess, listen to the rest of the house on top of just my own volume levels. But we do have Lawrence here. If you were screaming, Nick, he would definitely put you in your place.
That is correct.
Yeah, very true. Very true. So, still I'll do it. And just to, make sure I don't start screaming on, Justin Fields takes or anything like that.
All right. So before we get into like free agency talk, I want to let people know about some other content that we're pushing here on this channel and our website, because when I was up there on Monday, a big part of me making the trip up to Chicago, as much as it was to sit down and have a conversation with you guys on the show, you and I spent a few hours recording some videos on potential free agents, and they'll be trickling out on this channel throughout the next few weeks. But the first one did drop about an hour before this episode. Definitely check it out after this show, but it was on, we're talking about players in the draft, and that one was on, of course, Jalen Carter, and we're going to be writing accompanying articles on the website. What do you want to say about our Making the Case series to kind of promote it?
Well, I just think if you're looking at some of these top picks and guys that the Bears can consider, we got you covered, and we do it in an in-depth way, not only in video, if that's your preference, but like Will's just saying, we'll also have an accompanying article for each of these guys. And we'll continue adding to our overall database that you can get if you're a diehard with CHGO. But if you're just looking for content, and that's what we're here at CHGO to do, give you content on one of the busiest times of the year. And, if you're watching the YouTube right now, you can see a little bit of what it looks like. We're going to have cool graphics, a good discussion. We're in Studio B too. I love Studio B, Will, especially when we get to do videos like that. But it's just great insight for a lot of the players that, again, are going to be in consideration for the Bears when they're on the clock.
I love Studio B. The Sun loves Studio B. And we had some fun trying to block that sucker. It's strong, but we did it.
Great job. You were amazing blotting out the sun that just shines through that window. And look at that. It's like you guys there, a lot of you guys. You guys look good.
That's I know I'm freaked out how I'm existing in one video.
Should I unmute it so that it's really fucking everyone up? I don't think
Oh my God, that would really mess with me. But no, and you guys could have used like a scouting report there. Like Will's able to utilize his arm length to go up there and reach the window and support the cardboard, and to the right, he has good hands. See, like we could have turned that into an entire segment in of itself and really critique. And honestly, I just want to pat myself on the back for figuring that out, because I would have been blind if I didn't, because the sun would have been like right in my face. I probably would have just switched these chairs, Nick.
Yeah, then someone has to take the sun, I guess. You're already there, Will. Like,
don't you have your shady rays on you at all times, though?
Yeah,
true.
As we know, he never has sunblock, so that's the problem.
That's another. Yeah, see, that would have been bad. It would have been bad.
Shout out to Zach Ferguson for this $4.99 super chat. That's just that song that's just going through all your heads. It's going through mine too. Should we sing it? I don't know.
You sing it. I'm not. I don't know.
QB1, hallelujah. Yeah, thanks, Zach. Appreciate you.
Is that on Spotify yet from Mark Carman? I haven't downloaded it yet. Okay, not yet.
No.
So okay.
By the way, can we talk Spotify for just a second? Is your Spotify completely changed as far as like the way it looks? In fact, I don't think Spotify on Samsung has changed, but in the Apple world, it's like they're trying to be Instagram, and everything is like the full screen. Like, hey, do you want to listen to Phoebe Bridgers' playlist? Hey, do you want to? What happened to that whole old thing? I want my release radar. I want everything I used to listen to in the last 5 days. Yeah, everything changes for no reason. Why do you change things? What's going on, people? Come on.
I haven't looked really yet. I was listening to something that was like,
get my haircut.
Yeah, that's right. No, but I was checking it like today, and I was like recommending music from like 2005 that I didn't even know. So I thought that was strange.
Yeah.
Zach said I nailed it. Samsung.
Zach said I nailed it, but Isaac says I don't have Carm's range. And Torian says Carm's about to win a Grammy. I agree.
Hey, there we go.
The new category for what? Sports podcasting jingles?
Yeah.
There we go.
Good job, Carm.
Eli also saying I'm on it. Let's go. All right, I'm gonna get out of the
Love
way.
it. There we go. All right, let's get into the content now. Again, I know we took a huge left turn, but head over to allchgo.com to read the Making the Case article on Jalen Carter that Nick wrote. And on top of that, the video is embedded, so that way you can kind of do a little bit of both, or just watch the video. You do what you want to do, but definitely check out the content. We wanted to put it there in some different formats for everybody. Without question. But all right, let's get into some real good Bears discussion here. So one of the big names that we've all been talking about this offseason, really actually before the season even ended, was Daron Payne. And like maybe he'll hit free agency. Could he solve that Bears defensive line issues and kind of be that new engine up front for him? But all the reports coming out since this franchise tag window's open is that he will be, I put in my notes, the tag will be slapped upon him here this offseason, so he's not going to hit the open market, and he just won't be an option for the Chicago Bears. So even though that's a huge elite guy kind of taken off the board, I believe there are some other considerations that the Bears can be looking into, some other players that they can sign that can still have a very big impact on this defense as they want to turn it around. Who is, I don't know if you have like a ranking system, but just who's a player you want to bring up first?
I think, well, let's just start at the top here. So you go from Daron Payne, and obviously, like, that's looking like it's not going to be an option for the Bears. But a guy that, showed so much, especially with the Philadelphia Eagles, Javon Hargrave. And I was just going back, just even watching his sacks, the sacks that he got throughout the course of the season. 11 of them. How he got each one of those shows a different attribute that you can get behind for wanting this guy on the Bears. Again, I have him written down here and just what I saw from him. But like in the first game against Washington, I have written down in my notes, bull rush versus left guard. Then he had 2 against Pittsburgh. One, he showed some nice balance, was able to fight through the block. The second time, great effort. And that was a very common thing with Hargrave as I kept on watching him, is the effort he gives on his pass rushes. Even if a quarterback is leaving the pocket, a big guy like him is still trying to locate, get through the blocks, and then find the quarterback. But also his hands. And who can tell you about that is Cody Whitehair. When he gave up a sack to Hargrave, he was able to take his hands out of the equation, bend the corner, and then go get Justin Fields. But just even looking at the microscopic level of just the sacks that he generated last season shows you all the different attributes. And it gets me excited if the Bears were to go in this direction and sign the next top interior defensive lineman in this free agency class.
If you're just looking at in terms of like pass rush grades on PFF, since 2020, he's third. Aaron Donald, Chris Jones, and then you have Hargrave there. And I think we talked about him a little bit last week. And one of the stats I wanted to reiterate is that he had 12 more pressures by himself than the entire Chicago Bears defensive line had as a unit. Hargrave did, just to put that more context behind it in terms of the impacts he can make up front. I know he's a little bit older than Payne, so that's to be honest, it just sucks because you don't have as long as a window. But at the same time, I expect that he can still play at a very high level for 2, maybe 3 more years in this league. And when the Bears are looking at maximizing Justin Fields' rookie contract, that fits perfectly within it. So that would make a lot of sense. A name that I saw in the chat a couple of times already, and I've mentioned him a few times on this podcast, is Draymond Jones from the Denver Broncos, because he's versatile. He can play in that 3-tech, he can play in that 1. And I've mentioned those pressure numbers. He ranked 11th last year in terms of his pass rush productivity score. It was higher than Daron Payne, Jonathan Allen, and Aaron Donald last season. And the one drop off though, when you have with Jones compared to some of these other guys, is that run defense. Jones is a very capable pass rusher, but he's not as good in terms of a run defender up front, but he's still, I think, better than a lot of what the Bears have. So he can still be an upgrade. I just want to be as massive as an upgrade as Payne would have been. What are your thoughts on Jones after, some time of us talking about him on this podcast? And of course, maybe taking a little harder look at him now after the Payne news.
Yeah, I think for a guy like that, the more we've kind of learned about him, just even watching his game, if the Bears were to make that move, again, I'd see exactly why, and I'd be all right with it. I think you're still upgrading the defensive line with a player that can be productive for you. So the more I've heard the name, have gone into and actually watched, it makes sense to me. Another guy that I'm kind of coming around a little bit to, Zach Allen from the Arizona Cardinals. He had a career best 35 quarterback pressures, 8.3% pressure rate last season. Would fit more into the category of the younger guys, right? As opposed to being Hargrave at 30. But I also go back to our conversation that we had with Brad Spielberger from PFF, where he said the Bears would be all right with signing some of these 30-year-olds. So if that would be a Hargrave, again, the Bears are, they need to add playmakers. And I've seen some in the comments here. Yeah, building with younger talent is the key to success. No doubt about it. But you're going to have to mix your roster with some of these veterans. And if you can get a high productive guy like a Hargrave, even at 30, which he'll be in the 2023 season, you can live with that because you're still upgrading a major position need and adding, pass rush, which was non-existent from the Bears last season.
And ideally, you can either draft or sign someone on the younger side to hope and develop and can grow into that role. So when Hargrave's contract, say it's a 2-year deal, once those 2 years are up, you have someone already in your team that can kind of take over the wings. Obviously, the Bears don't have that player in the roster now, but that does give you some time to develop and grow organically, as that comment mentioned. Zach Allen's interesting. The one, it's not a concern. It's just more of a consideration that the Bears would have to make, is that he's been a starting defensive end in a 3-4 defense, and being a defensive end or him bumping into defensive tackle in a 4-3 asks to him to do entirely different set of responsibilities. Do I think he has the talent to do it? most likely. It just would be a consideration to make sure that is this a player that can come in and we put him in the best position to succeed? Because that's, if you're going free agency and you're going to be paying a pretty penny, that's what I would want to make sure is that if he comes in, he can play that and not just be like, oh, he can fit fine. You want him to be able to thrive and excel in that role.
And you know what? Travis Gibson might be a reason why the Bears would be almost hesitant with that. You had someone that was playing that 3-4 end and now coming and, going bumping outside. Like, again, seeing how players can change and then transition. Again, it's all in the equation for every single one of these players that the Bears might be considering. So, yeah, and I think obviously going back to the Payne news, it does suck. But there are still options as we're giving you. And I see people like, what if you can get a Hargrave and a Carter? Well, then your interior of the defensive line is set. That's for damn sure if you can get some of those guys playing right there. But, yeah, again, options, and we're going to learn more about these guys. And where you can actually find a lot of information about all these players or a lot of these guys, database that's in our diehard, just subscription here. So definitely want to check that out.
Boop. Diehard badge. Love it. allchgo.com/diehard. A lot of great benefits of joining our amazing community. So, Nick, as we had some time this morning, I was looking at like another subset of guys that the Bears could be looking into here at the position. What did we say? Pouna Ford would be one here too. So here's a little bit about him. Former undrafted player out of Texas. He went undrafted for being undersized, short but stocky, 5'8", 310. But he has actually turned to a full-time starter over the past 4 years. He's like a shorter guy, but he actually knows how to use that to his advantage, gain that leverage, tap into his speed and quickness to go after quarterbacks, 23 QB pressures. Last year, he had a career-high 3 sacks, 35 combined tackles, and he did that despite Seattle, where he's been throughout his career, going from a 4-3 to a 3-4 and asking him to do an entirely different group of things. So he pretty much last year, like, hey, be that read and react guy and hold these gaps, hold these double teams instead of just what he does best, which is go out there, penetrate the backfield and make plays. So I think that would be interesting, kind of a fit, not a top tier guy to go like he's our new like top starter, but if you're trying to raise the floor, supplementing one of these guys would really help. And then Ashawn Robinson, who we saw a lot back when he was a Detroit Lion. He's 23 years old. He had a 73.6 run defense grade over the past 2 seasons. That's 12th among interior defensive linemen over there with the Rams now. 46 defensive stops. That ranked in the top 20. Last year, even though he missed half of the season with the torn meniscus, he had 20 tackles for a loss in the first 10 weeks of the season. Big part of that Rams run defense, even this past year and their Super Bowl year when they're a top 10 run defense. Good size at 6'4", has long arms, 330. I can see him actually being signed and starting at the one technique and be a big reason why the Bears can turn around their run defense. Again, not a household name by any means, but he's still very serviceable. He wouldn't break the bank. The Bears don't have to worry about that regardless. But that's just like a tier 2 level player in free agency that would not surprise me if the Bears are doing their homework on right now.
Yeah, and Will too. If they double dip at this position, that would also be something I'd be, good with the Bears doing. You go get maybe a top end guy and maybe someone that's not even second tier, even third or second tier, wherever it may be. But the Bears need a lot of depth on this defensive line. So if they were to do something like that, get a company, maybe it's a high draft pick, then with the second tier guy, go for it. Because I think the more guys that you can have in and out of these waves, I think Matt Eberflus called it for the defensive line. They come in units, waves to kind of, again, throughout a game. That's going to be the best way that this pass rush can actually be successful. Because it would be, yes, would you like it all, one guy to just dominate and garner all the attention? Sure. But most likely how it's going to work for the Bears, like you get a top draft pick guy, you sign some free agents, maybe draft someone later in the draft, and then you have a unit. And I think that's going to work really well for the Bears if they decide to go that route.
All right, let's do a throwback or a callback, I should say, to a game preview episode. Over under 1.5 interior defensive linemen that the Bears signed for agency. Not like camp bodies, like actual players that should go out there and be difference makers, or at least like get a good chunk of snaps.
So 1.5, again, defensive line, not interior, but everybody on the defensive line, just in free
If I do
agency.
if I do entire defensive line, I'm moving that up to 2.5.
I'd take the over on the collect, like over 2.5 for the whole defensive line. Man. I'm leaning under for the first one you proposed, but defensive line as a whole, definitely over 2.5.
I can see it though. They just we know how bad the trenches have been. They have to bolster it up. I'm just curious to see how many resources you can see them allocating to these positions, and it'd be interesting to see. We have a couple of overs already in the chat. People already they don't skip a beat. They know what over under is, and they're already right back into it, just like those game preview episodes. Any final thoughts on the Daron Payne situation, whether or not you think the Bears can just overcome it? Because obviously I still think it's a little bit of a gut punch, but I'm okay with it just because I figured it was already slightly a long shot, a hopeful long shot anyway.
Yeah, I definitely think the Bears can overcome something like that, because if you're Ryan Poles, you're most likely were suspecting that Daron Payne would be back with Washington. If he didn't, that obviously gets you optimistic of what you can do to potentially go grab him. But definitely have confidence in Ryan Poles, this Bears coaching staff, everybody that's involved in trying to get the right guys to make this defense work in 2023, because it did the exact opposite. And Will, you've always brought up all the amazing stats that kind of highlight how bad it really was, historically bad it was defensively. So I definitely feel like he can still make this defensive line work next season.
And don't forget, I think Justin Jones will still most likely play a part of this too. I don't know if we even really mentioned him throughout this conversation, but he's still part of the equation and someone that the Bears can build around. And I'm trying to use that term loosely, but he is someone that can still be a part of what the Bears' plans are next season. And I still think play at a good level for this team. All right, so we're going to move over to some pre-combine talk, do a mini Bears mock draft. Before we get to that next segment, we have a couple messages that we need to share to you. And Nick, I believe you are up first.
Yeah, we're going to start with, everybody knows about Game Time, the hottest new ticketing site that makes it easier than ever to score the best deals on tickets to sports, concerts, and shows. Have you ever dreamed of sitting in a seat you never thought you could, 50-yard line, courtside, behind home plate? How about floor seats at a concert? It's possible with the Game Time app. The biggest last-minute price drops can be found in the seats you thought you could never buy. You won't find a better deal this season on Bulls tickets, Blackhawks tickets. If you don't want to go there, you have to check it out with Game Time, because it's created by the fans for the fans, and it guarantees the lowest price. And if you love CHGO, then you'll love Game Time. The best way to support us is by buying your tickets through the link in the description below.
All right, let's go ahead and get into DraftKings here. Everyone knows about DraftKings over with CHGO, and it's by far my favorite way to do some sports betting, and that's a big reason why. Well, that's not a big reason why, but that's a big reason why I'm excited that they are our official sports betting sponsor right now. I just been really getting into college basketball, as I've mentioned before, gearing up for some March Madness, doing some parlays pretty much every single evening, and doing a pretty good job of hitting those. I think college basketball is a big one right now, but of course, MLB is coming up. You got the Bulls. I don't know if I would put my money on over there right now, but there's still plenty to kind of get behind. And I love DraftKings because of all the boosts, all the kind of the same game parlays that you can kind of get stepped up. So you add more legs, the boost tends to increase. I think it's a lot of fun. So download the app now, sign up with code CHGO. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, with code CHGO. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. All right, CHGO Bears Podcast. Will DeWitt, Nicholas Moreano. We were already just discussing a little bit about some free agent options for the Chicago Bears, and now it's time for us to switch our focus to the draft and talk about some players before the combine begins next week. If you haven't yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel here as we continue to grow it, and give this video a thumbs up. Love to see that number kind of trickle up throughout this entirety of the episode. But Nick, I don't know. I feel weird because I feel like at this point of an offseason, you and I both have done complete mock drafts. We haven't got there yet. And I know it's a little bit more complicated with trades and what the Bears could get back and how it impacts the entire draft class and the picks that we'll have, but I'm very excited about the 2-rounder we have coming up right now.
Yeah, no, this is like you said, I have dabbled with a couple of mock drafts. Maybe some have been more realistic than others, but we use the format that if you're a fan of CHGO, you've definitely seen before. And so I'm excited for us to, again, teach you about maybe some players that you haven't heard of as much, but you're still going to recognize some of these names that we throw out here in this 2-round mock draft.
2-round mock draft. And it was like I said, I got to like the 3rd pick here. Spoiler, well, we're going to do 3 picks in the first 2 rounds. And I was like, damn, I want to keep going because there are more holes on this roster that I want to fill. And I could not like feel completely satisfied. Like after 3 picks, like I felt like I did a good job of filling holes, but there's just so many more needs that I just wanted to keep going. But all right. So as Nick mentioned, we kind of used Adam Hogue's mock draft 1.0 that came out after the Super Bowl and just use his trade. So that way, I think there's some consistency with all 3 of our first couple of rounds here. It's only been a couple of weeks and I didn't want to go overboard, have a huge haul right now because, well, who knows what really is realistic. You see things all over the place right now, but I think as Bears fans, we would all hope that they do get a king's ransom. So then this trade, the Bears traded down to the Colts at number 4. They kept that number 4 overall pick. They also got number 35 and a 2024 first rounder. Doesn't really matter for this mock draft. And of course, the Colts in return get that number 1 overall pick. So for this 2-round mock draft, we have round 1 pick 4, round 2 pick 35, and then round 2 pick 54, which is of course the Bears' 2nd round pick due to the Roquan Smith trade. All right, Nick, you're up first. I'm excited here. Round 1, pick 4. The pick is...
Love that music, Will. It's draft time. So with the number 4 overall pick, I have the Bears selecting Will Anderson. And I want to preface this. If it was Carter Anderson, I am a Carter guy. But that was Adam Hogue's pick in his first mock. So in this draft, I have the Bears taking Will Anderson. Immediate upgrade at the edge position. You already know what you're kind of getting with him. A consistent pass rusher, has a pop that you love to see on some of the tackles he makes, but also as a leader. You don't have to worry about Will Anderson in my eyes. And I think Mondays After Dark show, I asked, well, I would like to see him more with the hand in the dirt, but still, it's a guy that's going to be an immediate impact. And as Gary's kind of, going in the chat here, I just literally said I would go with Jalen Carter, but that Adams Hogue guy. I will toss it over to you, Will, to give your pick at number 4 here.
Yeah, number 4. And we both came up with different rules for ourselves here for this mock draft, which is interesting. So my rule, no Jalen Carter, no Will Anderson. Everyone in the chat, everyone who's going to watch the video after the fact, and everybody listening to the podcast, I think has heard so much talk about both of those guys. They deserve to hear something different and learn more about some other players. So for me, at the 4th overall pick, I went with Tyree Wilson, the edge player out of Texas Tech, because the more I look into him, the more I'm starting to kind of lean that way for the Bears. Honestly, I love his versatility, able to make an impact among the edges, obviously, but he can also kind of bump inside and be a pocket pusher there too. What really stands out to me is his size, and I think Eberflus, Brian Poles will kind of get enamored with that too. 6'6", 275 pounds. He has a frame that he can still add to. His arm length looks impressive. He's explosive, fast off the snap. He can get in the backfield in a hurry. He shed blocks really well. When he gets a lot of steam behind him, he just gets even more dangerous. And there's just so much film that you watch where I feel like he's just setting up shop and living in the backfield and making plays. And obviously the Bears love their defenders to be versatile up front. And I just feel like Tyree Wilson's blend of size and athleticism and quickness, run defense, getting after the passer, there's a lot to like. And I believe he can thrive in the Bears 4-3, maybe more than Will Anderson can, just because the more I watch Will Anderson, the more I do think he's going to be best suited in the NFL as a 3-4 outside linebacker, and trying to make him a 4-3 hand in the dirt guy, maybe asking just a little bit too much. And do I think he can still be a very good player in the NFL in that role? Yes, but I don't think you're going to have him reach his full potential. But with Wilson being that more natural fit, he can do so.
Yeah, Tyree Wilson. So you can actually go check on all CHGO after this podcast. We already wrote the Making the Case article for him. And spoiler, he's probably going to be in one of these Making the Case videos here pretty soon. So, yeah, he's a natural fit, I think, at that defensive end position. And, the Bears get, again, another playmaker on the defensive line. So I like the pick, Will. It's not the one that you're seeing right now, but again, people who are listening, Will had rules that he had going into this mock draft here. No Carter, no Anderson at number 4. Here's your next best option with Tyree Wilson.
Real quick, though, in the chat, I did see a few people bring up Myles Murphy, who is someone that last week I brought up. And another reason why he wasn't in my mock drafts, because I talked about him last week. I wanted to talk about someone else, give people some additional information. But Myles Murphy is another very interesting player for the Chicago Bears that I would not be surprised if they were heavily interested in, just because a lot like Carter, a very much more of a natural fit at that 4-3 defensive end. And they have, that plus athleticism, the size, the ability to displace linemen. Murphy's very strong. I know he has some consistency issues that you better believe teams will be asking him about next week at the combine. Like, why did you disappear here? Tell us more about it. And how come if I draft you, why won't that happen again? Those would be questions on my mind for Myles Murphy. But I love people throwing his name out in the chat too, because I do believe he's a very realistic option.
Yeah, and if you can get one of those guys, Tyree Wilson, Murphy, whoever, even later, if you were to make, maybe it's not to trade back with Indy, to trade back with Carolina or Las Vegas, the Raiders, like that would be ideal. I see Luke Van Ness is also another guy that I really like. So a lot of options there at the edge rusher position. So that's why, again, I would go with Carter if you were staying at 3 or at 1 or 4 or whatever. I know. All right, let's go into the second pick here, Will, because we had that trade back, and now we also have the number 35 overall pick from Indianapolis. And are we going to have the jingle? Maybe not. Okay. No jingle.
No jingle is better than no jingle at all.
Exactly. And with the 35th overall pick, the Bears are going to select Zay Flowers, wide receiver out of Boston College. And it depends. I've been looking at a lot of mock drafts lately. Some people have him going in the 20s. Some people have him in the 3rd round. We don't know at this point, but the point is the Bears get a playmaker on offense. Justin Fields now has another wide receiver to throw to, and Luke Getsy can utilize Zay Flowers wherever his imagination pleases in this offense. And I think with what you get out of him is, again, someone that can attack the field vertically. In space, I love his movement, able to make people miss. If you throw a screen pass to him, which the Bears haven't been very successful of, ever, it seems like, he knows how to make people miss and actually read blocks, go upfield, and then actually make plays. So keeping the offense out there, giving Justin Fields another weapon, and just ultimately making the offense better. Zay Flowers with the number 35 overall pick.
All right, look at you going edge, going receiver. Those are premium positions. You're using your top picks. Adam, something I don't know if I did a great job at here with number 35, but I mean, offensive tackle is premium, but I'm looking at a potential right tackle here, so you can roast me in the chat, or maybe you'll like the player, but I went with at number 35, DeWan Jones, the offensive tackle out of Ohio State. I just love, we talked about it during making the case, so it's weird because, like, for everyone listening, like, we're having this conversation the second time almost, but for your purposes, it's actually like the first. But like, he has a great size, long arms, allows him to get on those defenders. He occupies with that size so much space, it just makes it difficult for defensive linemen to get around him or go through him. He has really fast hands. I know you're a really big fan of those. And I just love the fact that he keeps quarterbacks clean. Only 4 QB hurries, no QB hits, and not a single sack allowed while playing at right tackle at Ohio State last season. That, if you can just say, hey, we can have a guy starting at a offensive lineman spot that will not allow Justin Fields to see the grass, I think that's a big win here for the Bears. 6'8", 360. He may not be the most quick or agile, but what we saw off of the Senior Bowl, I think it's enough that he can fit what the Bears are going to be asking of a right tackle to do in their zone scheme. And again, the Bears need more protection for Justin Fields. He's someone that went to the same school as Justin, so if you're looking at parallels, there you go. But DeWan Jones is a player that can bolster that right tackle position. You don't have to go spend a lot of money in free agency on it, and you have a longer-term answer there, and you can grow, as the comment said earlier, organically.
Yeah, DeWan Jones, he impressed me with his movement skills when I was at the Senior Bowl. I didn't think you'd see a 6'8", 360-pound man move as effectively as he did. And that's still going to be the biggest question with him in the NFL. If those defensive ends, those freak athletes on the edge, can they get the first step on him? And if they do, then you're gonna get your quarterback hit. But he has such a big frame, Will. He has the longest arms in Senior Bowl history. He'll have the longest arms at tackle once he gets into the NFL. That helps to mitigate maybe some of the speed, lack of quickness off the line. But he was a former basketball player in high school too, so he is athletic. He's just big as shit too. So that's always anytime you can get those combos, that's going to help you there. But yeah, that was a guy I saw you put in your guys in there, Will. I'm like, DeWan Jones, kind of thinking that too. So had to go a different route, but I like it. We go obviously address the defense. Then we go offensive players. Now let's see where we both go for pick number 54 here.
Yeah. Real quick though, I saw a couple people ask why not JMS out of Minnesota. I think the reason I didn't take him, and you maybe have your own reasoning here too, but at least in this 3-pick mini mock draft we're doing, I just thought he's been talked about enough. And I know we've had some extra content about him on this channel already. There's going to be some more coming up with our Making the Case series. Again, some other people to learn about, talk about, and just consider and kind of go through those thought exercises. But JMS is another very good player that I don't think neither of us would be upset if the Bears actually ended up drafting. We like him a lot.
Oh, absolutely. And you know why I didn't take him? Adam Hoke took him with the number 35 overall pick. I didn't want to, again, go doubling up on the same pick. That's the whole point of this exercise. We're giving out names in these slots. Does it necessarily mean it's the guy that we actually want? Maybe so, maybe not. So that's exactly why I didn't go with JMS. But if he's on there, he's a great player, good upgrade for the Bears, and I see exactly why they're doing it. But we're going to move on to pick number 54 here. And I wish this was 32, but, they have Chase Claypool now. Love the jingle. And this one's going to piss off everybody. I already know this. The Bears, with the 54 overall pick, will select Caillou Blue Kelly, cornerback out of Stanford. All right. If you want to leave, no, just kidding. Right. Stay here with me real quick, you guys. I was looking at the board. I did a couple of different mock draft simulators, and I also was going back to what I saw at the Senior Bowl. And this guy just kept popping up, making plays, was sticky to wide receivers, was just being able to create turnovers. And he was doing it with instincts. Yes, maybe he's trying to be a little risky at times because it's a Senior Bowl, it's an all-star game, and you're trying to just make plays. But this guy, it just came natural to him. I remember there was an end of practice play where he picks off the quarterback, returns it all the way for a pick six. The whole entire defense is going crazy. And again, just put it in my notes, playmaker, consistent, is making these game-changing type of plays. But I also think of the need for the Bears. They played really well in the secondary, and a young secondary at that. But Kyler Gordon played more in the slot and was forced to play outside when Kindle Vildor went down. He had about 450 snaps in the slot, 290 outside. So it's good experience for him. But can you accompany Jalen Johnson, who hopefully gets a new contract, with a true outside corner, have Kyler Gordon, Jaquan Brisker, and then Eddie Jackson, and now you're revamping that pass rush, which we both did in our mock draft so far. Now we're getting, those turnovers, hopefully, that Matt Eberflus wants, that Alan Williams wants, that the Bears were even creating a little bit on their own without the pass rush. But now you get a guy, too, that's his job. And he showed it consistently at the Senior Bowl, had his hand on a lot of passes at Stanford as well. So it's not necessarily the biggest position of need, but Caillou Blue Kelly out of Stanford, maybe just something to think about.
I'm proud of you for your phrasing, having his hands on a lot of passes at Stanford. You definitely could have went in other directions, and that's where I thought it may have been going as you kind of were rattling it off. So congratulations. I'm proud of you for avoiding that. But the one question I would have, it's not really a question. It's just more of an observation I'm having. Is that I know you mentioned Vildor, but that means you're not going to bank on Jalen Jones or Josh Blackwell to take that step.
No, not at this time. And, I think those are players that definitely should be back on this roster in 2023. But I think where Kyler Gordon is going to be the most successful, and not that he can't play on the outside because he already shown that, but his instincts, his movement ability, his athleticism is just built for the nickel corner. And he's going to be out there for a majority of the time, the amount of times they're in these nickel dime packages. But for me, let me go get a bigger 6'1", 190-pound corner. He needs to put on more weight, Caillou Blue Kelly, and then have Kyler Gordon and Jalen Johnson. So that's how I saw it. And also, too, as, again, thinking about these exercises, I wanted to be like you went, obviously, I don't want to give up your pick, but just looking at how all the positions that we picked, kind of wanted to go a different direction as well. So before I say too much and spoil who your third pick is, Will, I'm just going to hand it over to you and then we can discuss.
Sounds great. I do think there's a super chat about Jack Campbell to draft him in the late second, early third. Nick?
Oh, let's freaking do it. I saw his name on there. Again, linebacker, and if it works out, I'm going to be happy as hell you get a guy like that in this draft, and you're obviously able to help this defense, but probably not where the Bears are going to go. Linebacker later on, for sure. Definitely got to go do that.
What would his fit be, in your opinion? You watch a lot more on him than I have, obviously, with him being a Hawkeye. Would he have to be a Mike? Could he be a Will? Could he be a Sam? I don't know if I would draft someone to be my Sam backer this early, so that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, you probably have to be the Mike. And then, see, that's where we get into this realm of where does Jack – now is Jack Sanborn the Will, the Sam – like, then it gets confusing. But Jack Campbell can play, so I wouldn't be opposed to it.
And Jack Sanborn can play too, though.
Two Jacks make a – no, I tried to make up something clever, but just having two Jacks is always good, I guess.
I don't know. In poker,
it's a good starting hand in poker.
Yeah.
Yeah. There we go. Two Jacks.
2 days in a row with poker references.
There was one yesterday?
Yeah, the PLO.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even know what that was again. Like you guys are talking about it. Went right over my head.
Hey, quick, Chicago's Finest threw us this nice super chat. Thank you for the $5. And maybe he's a little behind on the stream, but he says, I don't know why no one is drafting an offensive lineman. I thought protection for Fields was the number one priority. Apparently not.
I did that.
And we did that in pick 35. So,
yeah. DeWan Jones, offensive tackle, Ohio State, who did not allow a single sack or QB hit last year. So I think I adhered to exactly that. And I agree. Number one priority. So that's why we went there.
I like
to Jack City.
To Jack City. Well done. Hey, the Duke's chiming in.
Uh-oh.
Go for
it. From the Duke. I don't want to get anyone excited, but some guy on Twitter that the Texans won't be beat out for a first pick because they need Bryce Young. So I guess they're saying that no matter what, they're going to up any offer. So maybe we'll get to take their 2, their 12, and their second round. Whoo! I mean, if so. Plus, I'm assuming you would have to get something next year in that first round back, or maybe not, but it was in the super chat, but I would hope so. But even then, like, talk about a haul for this draft class.
Yeah, and see, that's where it's intriguing too. I've seen some like trade scenarios where you're getting a lot more now and not as much next season. But as I think about it, like you're getting a lot more assets to help Justin Fields right now in this 2023 season as opposed to down the line. And that gets enticing, Will. So, hey, like the Duke said, don't want to burst anyone's bubble here, but we'll see what ends up happening. I'm sure this is only the start of what all the draft scenarios we're going to hear and who wants who and what they're going to give up, heaven and earth, like Jim Irsay or whatever. But, yeah, it's only the start.
All right. So the final player of our little mini mock draft here, maybe some luck's involved with it. But just like you, I see drafts and they're all over the place. And that's what happens in February before the combine. Mm-hmm. Things don't get kind of solidified. It's all over the place. But maybe this will take luck, maybe not. But at the 54th overall pick, I'm going to go with Keyshawn Booty, the wide receiver out of LSU. I mean, there's just so much I like about him. High end plus athleticism, very good speed, run after catch ability. He's versatile inside out. He's just a dude that makes plays with the ball in his hands. He can make people miss due to a great mixture of elusiveness and lower body strength to kind of break through some of those tackles. He needs to work on tapping into his full catch radius. He kind of limits himself at some times, but he is just a big play player and is written all over him. I know the one concern coming out of school, which is what the combine's all about, to get some answers to your questions, is that he was kind of hit or miss. There are games like his freshman year when he goes out and sets a school and SEC conference record to go out there and get the most receiving yards in a single game. And then there's been stretches where he's kind of been a no-show, but he has a lot of good talent. 6 foot, around 200 pounds. I don't know. Is everyone just talking about booty? Is that why you're giggling over there, Nick?
I've seen booty. I've also seen 2 jacks in the box. That's also a really good one over there.
I was gonna say I like booty just for the puns alone. A lot of good puns there.
Booty. Yeah.
Well, I think it's
booty with the reception.
Booty. That's
booty
what
goes
it is.
up there to make the catch.
But that's just a player that I was learning more about for the combine. And I was like, we talked about Zay Flowers. There's been other players in that. Jaden Reed, someone that we've talked about before, coming up and making the case. But I just wanted to look at another receiver. I see that there's some of the character concerns, and that's an also excellent point. That could be a reason why the Bears steer clear. But again, exercise to learn more about players, and people don't like the booty.
Will? Yeah, absolutely. I'm just gonna make the mock draft that pisses everybody off. Like that might be my next exercise.
That's a good.
That might be the one where like the mock draft that everybody hates, even though it's just a mock. But again, exercises, and there's gonna be so much more from now on. Players that you don't agree with, that you do agree with, that you absolutely hate. But I think my next one is the all-time, I don't know, fan pissed off at Nick mock draft. So that's gonna be on my bucket list.
That's an amazing thing. I can't wait. It would be like one of those videos they get, like the ratio will be completely off on the upvotes and downvotes. The comments will be ripping you to shreds. Man, get your popcorn ready for the Nick you're gonna hate this mock draft episode.
Maybe I'll just start with Bryce Young. Just start, like that's where
I already hate
that's
you.
where people. Yeah, I hate myself even saying that. But that's maybe where I'll start. But yeah, nice little exercise. Before we continue our amazing show here, and thank you everyone who's tuning in and being so interactive in the chat. We really appreciate everybody. Just gotta tell everybody about Goose Island. CHGO is supported by Goose Island Beer Company, Chicago's beer since 1988. And there's so many great options like the Blackhawks Pale Ale, Bull City 312, Beer Hug IPA series, and my new favorite, got them in the fridge right now, cooling down for later today, the No Plans. And if you see that one at your local Benny's, wherever, gotta check it out. And Goose Island's 2 local locations are open and ready to welcome you. Grab a beer right from their innovation tanks at the Goose Island Tap Room at 1800 West Fulton, or get a smash burger and a fresh beer of the week at the original Clybourne Brew House at 1800 North Clybourne. For reservations and pickup, go to gooseisland.com/locations. Goose Island Beer Company.
Oh my gosh, the booty comments, Lawrence, you definitely kind of spurred it with you saying like all of the puns and things that we can come up with, and that's just fun to go through those. A lot of getting hands on booty, hey, that would be PI hopefully, but it's great stuff, guys, in the chat. Way to make me laugh on all of it and make me feel a little bit better about throwing it out there because it's making for some great content. All right.
Yeah, that, and also maybe like the all name draft. Puka Nakua, Booty, blanking on other guys, but that's the start of it. That'd be a great draft too. Just the all name draft.
Oh, I was trying to think of that one corner from like 3 years ago that we kept going about the name. It was like an animal name at the end, but it wasn't like it wasn't Goose, but it was like some like, was it Duck? Was the last name like Duck?
Clifton Duck?
Clifton Duck. No. I don't know.
What is that? A guy or just completely make that? I know Duck was.
Yeah, that's it, man. Clifton Duck from App State.
There you go. Clifton Duck. Yeah, we'll have to do that too. That would be fun.
No ducks here. We're goose only.
That's true. Only Goose. No ducks. No ducks. We'll have to find a guy with last name Goose. Actually, my former teammate back in high school, I almost forgot what his real name was, but we just called him Goose. He was a corner, and I don't know why Goose, but he was Goose, the corner.
Talk to me, Goose. All right, we have some questions here that we can answer to kind of wrap up today's show. Lawrence, let's go in order top to bottom. Oh, that's the second.
Sorry, I jumped ahead there. Sorry. I just know that Leonidas he had posted this a couple times. I had to let him know that we would get to it. So
then that's fair. That's fair. I can get behind that. So Leonidas says, as far as the draft goes, is it better to take Anderson or Carter, two unproven players in the NFL, or would it be better to trade with Carolina, get picks, and then Brian Berna, and then go get Yannick Ngakoue?
That's a lot of options here. I mean, I love Brian Burns, what he could do. You would get the 9th pick, right, with Carolina. I still think you can get a good edge rusher. But, man, the more I'm reading about Jalen Carter, the more just thinking what he can do for this Bears defense, Will. Like, if you have an opportunity to get him, like, I'm really excited what he could do, what he would look like in a Bears uniform, and how disruptive he could be. So I'm kind of leaning the Carter way.
I'm still leaning that way just because going down to Carolina, I know you get some players, but I do feel like the return that you would get on some of those picks, I don't know if it aligns just as much. But Brian Burns, like you said, would be good in a Bears uniform. And Ngakoue is someone that's already on my short list in free agency at defensive end, so I can totally get behind that. And, of course, having younger veterans to be immediate impact players would make a lot of sense. But at the same time, you feel pretty confident that Carter can be that for the Bears despite the inexperience in this league.
Yeah, I mean, like, obviously it's a risk when you take any of these players, and especially number 1 overall pick, whatever it could be. But Jalen Carter, the longer this goes, I think I'm just going to get more and more convinced, like, that is your guy. That is Eberflus's guy that can really start to change things for this Bears defense. So right now, on February 24th, it's Jalen Carter all the way.
All right, there we go. Next question. And Nick, you want to read this one?
Yes. Let's see. K small goal. Maybe I butchered that, but what are the chances that Poles trades back with Arizona? So that'd be the number 3 overall pick. There are rumblings of Murray being out for a while and a chance D-Hop to be traded. Could be a high draft pick next year if we give them their choice. Look, D-Hop, I've wrote about DeAndre Hopkins, and there's an opportunity for the Bears to get him on this roster right now. I'm all for that as well. Like, I'm big on Justin Fields getting a number 1 wide receiver. I still think DeAndre Hopkins is that, despite his age and the injuries and not playing as many games as of late. But still, what you see on film, he's a guy that can impact games. And if you trade back with them, and, they're not sold on Kyler Murray, but I think they are. And obviously you have to deal with the injury there, the new coaching staff, GM. It's a whole new system going over there in Arizona. But, like, I do like DeAndre Hopkins, and you could still get Jalen Carter or Will Anderson probably at number 3. So it would be an enticing option.
Yeah, I don't know if this trade specifically is you get D-Hop and you go down to 3 would be awesome. But I think it's like D-Hop could go somewhere else, and then we would just go from 1 to 3. I just don't know what Arizona would need to go up to number 1 for if they are, as you said, probably sold on Murray. So that's why I think the chances are be a little bit less than some of these other teams. But I still feel like the Colts and the Texans will be giving you a high draft pick back for 2024, most likely too. But I do like the question to think about that number 3 spot, because I feel like everyone's like not talking about it. It's either 2 or then he jumped down to 4, and then it kind of goes down to Carolina. So I thought that was a really good question. Thanks for asking it. I just don't know what motivation Arizona would have, because someone's going to fall to him at 3 that they'll definitely want.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Now I feel like an idiot reading the so someone said from the comments it's from Lord of the Rings. That's Smeagol? Is that where we're going with? I love the Lord of the Rings, and I guess the K threw me off. And I love Love Lord of the Rings. Cannot get my girlfriend to watch it, though. Any of the freaking movies. It kind of irritates me. But beside the point, we can go to the next question. Lord of the Rings.
We got one from Brody Licious. I understand that when national analysts go in addressing every need in free agency, but what polls have said recently doesn't make anyone believe that they will go out there and sign every need with the big money and with some older talent. I think it's going to be a hybrid approach. I feel like he will have players in free agency identified that maybe they're a little bit older, but it will make sense from a dollar and cent standpoint. If it is like a Hargrave, like we talked about at the top of the episode, that shorter deal still fits within Justin Fields' rookie contract window. It's just going to be a matter of that, and then also who's available in the draft versus who's available in free agency, and kind of cross-referencing which positions you feel good about in the draft to make you feel like you don't have to go out there and spend all of that money at the position in free agency. I don't know if that actually addresses the question, but that's exactly where my mind went asking when I read it.
Yeah, I know. So Poles said at the end of his end of the year press conference that he wants to stay on top and wants to do so for a long time, essentially paraphrasing here. And you usually don't do that going out and signing all the big ticket free agents, but the Bears are going to be in a position where they financially can do so. So going back to your point, Will, I think it's going to be a mixture of both. And depending on the position, you might want to go get a younger player as opposed to, another position that has a more productive, experienced player than, one that you're considering. So to me, it's going to be a mixture of both. And the Bears are in a very unique situation where financially they can do that and they can help their team with productive players, and they may be older like a Javon Hargrave. So yeah, to answer your question, I wouldn't be surprised if we see, a little dabble in the younger guys that are ascending, those middle tier contracts. And then you can't obviously sign Daron. As of right now, it looks like you can't sign Daron Payne, but go get the next big ticket interior defensive lineman, Javon Hargrave. That's what the Bears game plan should be if they really want to improve in 2023.
All right. Drew TV asks, with polls showing he likes quantity of draft picks, what is the probability to trade down lower than 4 to gain 2 and more 2 and 3 third round picks? That's hard to kind of spit out there. I mean, he showed you he was not afraid at all to move down that board to accumulate extra picks last year. It will be, again, it's all about a blend, at least in my mind right now, about value. Like if you still have players in your board that you're like, okay, I would have drafted them in the top 5 and you want to bounce out of the top 5 just a little bit, and you have more guys there that should be, I guess it's a risk worth taking. Depends on how many times you go down, but I feel like you go down to maybe 4, and then after that, I think it gets, I don't know if I would say 50-50, but I say like maybe less than a 50% chance you trade down another time.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to remember now because that day 3 for Ryan Poles was nuts, where he was trading down and just getting all these picks. But I wonder if he had to do that out of necessity, his first draft, as opposed to maybe this time where obviously you had the worst record in the NFL. You have some higher draft picks. So again, if there's a way like trading the first pick to get draft capital, of course I see that happening. And there's definitely an option for them to still trade back, with maybe other picks to accompany for 2024. Who knows? But I wonder if year 1, I'm trying to remember how much they originally had, but obviously they ended up with, selecting. It seemed like they selected every single time on day 3 when I was at Hallis Hall. It's like, oh, the Bears are back on the clock. Oh, now they're trading back, getting more 7th round, 6th round, whatever it was. But yeah, I almost think if that was a necessity, if that's going to be the same case this year. But look, the Bears have a lot of needs, and draft picks are going to help put some young players to hopefully make those needs not in question anymore.
For sure. Anthony was wondering, would Carter still be there at 4 if we do trade back with Indy? I think yes, it would. I think Arizona is the wild card.
Yeah,
like that's the big one. A lot of mocks right now, if the Bears go down to 4, have Will Anderson. I've seen going there a lot, but it depends. Like if the mock has the Bears taking Jalen Carter, they go Anderson. If the Bears take Anderson, then I do see Arizona then leaning towards Jalen Carter. So it does depend on, I think, Arizona being that wild card, but that's the $1 million question. This is the $20 question from the Duke.
Yeah. He says, Nick, you are so right. We cannot miss Jalen Carter, especially since Payne is likely not going to be a free agent. Hargrave is over 30. Tell Poles I'm officially not okay with him trading back beyond number 2, monster of the Midway. You know, the Duke, it's a good point too. Like the Ryan Poles' Bears evaluating staff need to go, and obviously they're still thinking about this probably, but would they feel comfortable that at number 4, you get either one of those guys? Because if you can't live without Jalen Carter, then you can't go to 4 not knowing what Arizona is going to do. So those grades better be pretty damn similar if that's going to be the case. But if you can't live without Carter, then you got to find another trade back scenario that can, help you get picks, but still allow you to get your guy.
All right. I think we got one more question from Pedro. Yes, you have my vote. What are your thoughts on Bobby Wagner becoming a Bear, possibly? So Bobby Wagner released from the Rams. I think it was like his first year of a $50 million contract. It's like he just played on, and now they let him go. I still think, he's 32. He's still someone that can go out there and get you 100 plus tackles. Does he fall in the category of older person that the Bears shouldn't be afraid to go sign?
Man, he's 30, or no, he will be in 2023, 33 years old.
Ooh, so he'll be 33 for the season. Damn.
Yeah, he's still super productive though. And the last thing I remember about Bobby Wagner didn't he knock out that fan that ran onto the field and just like tackled him? Like, yeah, I think that's what I remember from Bobby Wagner. Obviously a very good football player. I just think it would cost a lot to even still get a guy even though he's will be older, still to have somebody like that. I don't know if that's going to be the direction that the Bears go, personally.
Yeah, that's just where I'm at too. Like, I can understand the question and like why it's here, because of like, that's a huge household name at the position, and it has been for quite some time. And we did just say like the Bears could be interested in some older prospects. So I fully understand where it's coming from. I just think he will ask a little bit too much, and I don't know about him at this stage of his career being like a will in this defense. So then again, you're moving him to Mike, which then you could interrupt Jack Sanborn's kind of development. And if you say, well, he can be a strong side linebacker, again, at this stage of his career, that's one very damn expensive Sam linebacker that's only going to be out there for like 30% of the snaps. So I'm going to say no. But thank you for the question, Pedro.
Appreciate it.
All right. Any final thoughts, Nick, before we wrap up? Other than those thumbs ups better be rolling and racking up.
Yeah, let's get those likes up. Last in studio show for I think all of next week too, because we'll be at the NFL Scouting Combine, right? No,
studio on Monday, bro.
Well, our last remote. I said not in studio, remote. Last remote. Wrong
but
words.
Wouldn't it be remote when we're in Indy anyway? Because it's not.
It's like it's our new studio. Like it's a new like Radio Row studio. I didn't like consider those to be remote. Are they?
I don't know, but I did throw a poll in the YouTube.
Ooh,
I asked
okay.
if the Bears trade the number 1 pick, what's the ideal place you'd like to pick? I said 2, 4, 9, or 10 plus. Number 4 is the overwhelming winner at this point at 60% of the vote. Number 2 had 19%. Number 9 had 15%, and then 7% was the later pick. So. Also, I'm eating Justin's thumb. I didn't realize that. Thumbs up, everybody.
Yeah, please. That's his throwing hand, so we definitely you need to stay away from that.
You should probably give that back.
Okay.
Yes, please. Or else then you give everyone all the ammunition to talk about Bryce, and we don't want that.
Okay, we'll put him over there.
That works perfect. Perfect.
But no, you said 40% was just like moved down to 4.
61%.
There we go. So many numbers. I feel like Greg because the numbers are swirling right now.
Tell me like I'm 5.
There we go. But yeah, that again, I think that makes sense. That's about where I'm at too. So I'm glad to see the majorities there. Nick, would you go down further than 4 right now?
Yes. If there would be a scenario where I could go beyond 4 and still get a really impactful edge rusher, and
you go get Miles Murphy,
draft
baby.
capital. Miles Murphy, Luke Van Ness, Tyree Wilson if he's there. Like, again, a lot of guys there that you feel good about. But, yeah, there's a scenario where that could work.
All right. Well, hey, I hear my baby starting to cry, and I think that's my cue.
Sure.
Yeah. There you go. Probably part of what reason why numbers are swirling, because I'm wondering what's going on up there. So I'm going to call that an episode. Lawrence, thanks for all the amazing production work behind the scenes, and also for all your extra work on those making the case videos that will be trickling it out over the next few days. I know they would not be coming out without you. So on behalf of Nick and myself, we really appreciate it. Thank you.
Hey,
and
thanks for doing all the talking.
Yeah, that's what we do. And I'll see you guys in Indy next week. Whoa.
All right, see y'all.